Is that really everything you own? Oh, Eilish, I should have looked after you better.
You've bought most of the clothes in this case. It's one of the reasons I'm going, because I can't buy my own.
If it was just that, I'd spend every penny I had on you. Gladly. But I can't buy you a future. I can't buy you the kind of life you need.
I know. But you'll come see me there one day.
Yes.
And you'll look after yourself.
You don't have to worry about me.
And I'll come home to visit, won't I? Because I couldn't bear it if...
You haven't packed your shoes yet. They'll take up a bit of room.
That was a clip from Brooklyn, and I'm delighted to be joined by Saoirse Ronan. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Would you mind just giving us a brief outline of Brooklyn? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's been adapted from a Colm Tóibín novel by the same name, and it's set in the 50s. And it's about a girl who leaves this small town called Enniscorthy, where she's grown up in Ireland, to go and live in Brooklyn and really have a better life and to work over there. And it's kind of about how she deals with the very kind of immense homesickness that she starts to feel as soon as she leaves, and that kind of sense of loss that everyone experiences when they move away.
I really loved it. And one of the things that I found interesting was that I approached it as a middle-aged man,
Right.
which is what I am.
Which is what you are.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, I'm going to, hopefully see a good film, and I know you're good, and the cast is great.
Yeah.
And the director, John Crowley, I really liked Intermission as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of, there was a good kind of backdrop of people for me.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect was to relate to it as much as I did. And although essentially it's about sort of female relationships are at the very heart of it, and particularly your character, Eilish's relationship with Rose, her sister, played beautifully.
Beautifully. By the legend that is Glasgow.
Yes, Fiona Glasgow.
Yeah.
I've read that you kind of said that you related to every part of this.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that are very personal that I won't go into. Of course, when it came to that sense of homesickness, which I'm guessing is what you kind of related to, I think once anyone moves away, and you can't go back to how it was, and when that realization starts to set in, there is this like heaviness that you drag with you from day to day, and sometimes it's kind of lifted off you, but it always seems to come back for a while until one day it's just not there anymore. So I could very much identify in that way, but also her relationship with her sister, played by Fiona, is very, very important to the film. It's kind of when it comes to Ireland, it's the real kind of heart, And even when she goes to New York, it's very much about what she misses is her relationship with her sister and the connection that they have. And one of the things that I referred to in the book was Eilish's relationship and Rose's relationship with their father before he passed away, and how when he passed away, the dynamic changed, and the mother doesn't really seem to be in one place or another. She is does still feel like she's a little bit numb, I think, and she very much relies on her two girls, as she says in the film. So for Eilish and Rose is almost like a mother figure to her, and Rose is the one who decides that she's going to move away. And I could completely appreciate that. I mean, there is a tragedy in the story, and that had happened to someone in our family only a few years ago, and he was very young, and I could completely tap into that. I think it's the way the script is written. It's like reading a book or listening to a piece of music or watching a film that it seems as though it was created for you.
Well, it certainly seemed that it was created for you, because I couldn't really imagine anyone else playing it now. I mean, it's such a great fit for you. I mean, in terms of the age, in terms of the journey and everything else, the layers that it has as well. And one of the things I really loved about it was that it's very easy, I think, for that kind of story to flip into melodrama, and it never does. Never, ever does. It just pulls back all the time.
Yeah.
And makes it feel totally real.
Yeah, someone sent me an email the other day, and they said that they had heard the film described as a delicate film. Emotionally, it's very delicate. An awful lot happens, but it's never over the top. It's never overly dramatic, and it doesn't feel like. At no point does it feel like we're making it to sell it or to get awards or for, you know, anything that's sort of industry based. It was always very much about this, you know, dare I say simple story, but one that's just that has quite a natural progression, you know. And I watched the film for the first time the other night, and I kind of vowed not to until everything was finished, until we had done all our press, because I think I was scared. I think I was just really scared of maybe watching it and thinking, oh God, I messed it up or something. But anyway, I watched
But
it.
you
and
must have known that you hadn't messed it up by now. I mean, the reactions have been great.
The reactions have been amazing, but you know, you're always going to have that fear that you just didn't do a good enough job. And for this, more than anything, I mean, I always feel that way, but for this, it's been very intense. And even when we were in New York, something about being in New York and taking the film home, I was really anxious to kind of, I really wanted them to like it. I really wanted them to identify with it, you know, because it did feel like we were taking it back to where it all started in a way.
This does suggest that it's possibly the most personal film that you've made then.
It is. It absolutely is, you know, and I think it'll be a long time before a film will kind of hit me in that way again. It really struck a chord with me, and you know, every film that I've done, I've been lucky enough that I would only ever be involved in a script if I'm truly passionate about it and I believe in it. But with this, as I said, it was like someone was saying to me, this is yours. We know this is what you're going through, and this is why you need to kind of help to bring this to life. And I think the responsibility of that, but also the freedom that it gave you, it was very therapeutic ultimately to have gone through that shooting period where really from scene to scene it would either remind me of, you know, my dad's relationship with his brother before he passed away, or my own mother, and every time I have to leave her, how heartbreaking it is for both of us, or moving away from home and being at a loss. Even things down to when Ailish goes into a diner, her first day of work, or one of her first days of work, and she has her change ready before the waiter asks for the money. She has it ready to go, the exact right amount of change. And I remember I used to do that. I'd get quite anxious about it. And I used to do that when I moved over here to London. You almost want to appear as though when you're walking down the street and you've just moved away that, you know, I'll pretend I'm confident and I'll pretend I'm the type of person that's like ready for the city, especially if you don't come from the city. You know, it's a lot. It is a lot. And even though I'm used to the city, it's a very different thing when you are on your own there, you know, and it's kind of up to you to decide what you're doing every day and, you know, make sure your bills are paid on time and all that sort of stuff. And I think for the first while, it is very much about survival for her.
The film is just full of really beautiful moments as well. And there were a couple that really touched me. It was interesting. It was kind of, because I thought back to my parents. My dad came to London in the 50s, right, and my mum came in the 60s. So I kind of have a memory of the airmail letters. And the interesting thing about the airmail letters were that you waited for them. I mean, I could see my mum would just be waiting. It would be a big, big moment. But the thing that really touched me was that, and reminded me, was that phone calls, which were incredibly rare, incredibly difficult, you only ever got bad news.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that if it was good news, you'd get a telegram or a letter.
Or a letter,
If it was bad news, because people didn't have phones, they'd have to find someone who had a phone, etc. And that really resonated with me. And the other scene, which I found really, really moving, was the scene where Ailish helps at Christmas.
Yeah.
Helps the kind of the unfortunates and the down and outs. And there's the moment that Father Flood says that these people have been here for 50 years. They built the tunnels, they built the bridges.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of lost. And that moment of them sharing a song, again, reminded me of my youth, where lots of Indian families would get together and somebody would sing a song from the old country.
Yeah, absolutely. That really struck us even on the day that that's the incredible thing I think about music, is that it is sort of timeless when it comes from your own country. And I do think with the likes of India and Ireland and places like that, we have a certain sound that our people really identify with, and it just brings you back home in an instant, you know. And to look around all those old men's faces and see a sort of echo of their lives before, and know that they'll never go back, that they only really have each other. They only have the other men in that room. It's sad, you know, and I think it's great that the film, it showed what America can offer you, or what a new kind of developed city can offer someone young, but also how it has ended up for so many people, the people who haven't made it.
There's a price.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you know, these days, because there's so much in the news about economic migrants.
Yeah.
It was interesting to have a film that kind of said there is an emotional cost that people just don't think about now.
No. And I was saying this earlier, actually, that if only, you know, I've read a few individual stories from some of the migrants, and it's devastating. And as soon as you read something like that and you're able to put a face to this group, to this movement, just one story, it instantly makes it personal for you, and you want to do something, and you are, you know, through default connected to it in some way, you know, and you will relate. And even while all this has been going on, I mean, I've never kind of stopped thinking about Brooklyn, but I think about, you know, even when my mum and dad moved away, and they were, you know, they had an apartment set up and they had their jobs and all that kind of stuff. These people are completely lost and just looking for anywhere for refuge. And so, maybe it's great that, I think it is great that Brooklyn is coming out at this time, because hopefully it'll make people think of this whole topic in a more kind of personal way.
You mentioned that your parents moved to New York, didn't they, from Ireland, and then back again.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether this story and the script and doing it made you kind of investigate or reflect on your own family's history at all?
A little bit. I mean, it was only my mum and dad that moved over, so we're very much Irish. My aunt was doing a family tree a few years ago, and I was like, do we have any, you know, Italian blood in us, or French, or something kind of exotic
Navajo
like
Indian.
that? Navajo, you know, something. She was like, no, we're just Irish. We're just completely white, Irish, blue-eyed, on both sides, which is, you know, the excitement was gone then for me straight away. But no, they went over there, and they were the only people from their family, I think, that ever went to the States, as far as I know. Well, we had other family members that went to New Jersey, but they were still part of that generation. So yeah, I did. I asked them about work that they had done, because I knew that Mam had been a nanny most of the time that she was there, and but they started to go into a greater detail about the work. And, you know, my dad told me at one stage he was working in kind of construction and stuff, and he worked in the Waldorf Astoria, and a sewage pipe had broken, and the elevator shaft completely flooded. And it was his job to get rid of it and shovel it into a wheelbarrow. And it was like that kind of stuff that he had to do. And he worked on a construction site, and they were illegal. They wouldn't supply him with ear protection, so he had to put cigarette butts in his ears, apparently. Like, it was mental, and I never knew that before, and I hadn't really asked, you know. And then with Mam, to hear it from a woman's point of view, and somebody who had a child, like when she decided it was time to go home was when she had been looking after, you know, other people's kids for years, and loved these children, and took me to work with her. But I had a cold, and it was, you know, the winters in New York are so harsh and brutal. And she looked at me, and I was out in the park with the kids or whatever, and I was just freezing cold, and I was shaking. And it was then that she looked at me, and she thought, I want my kid to have a garden, and I want her to be sitting on her own couch all wrapped up, and for me to be able to look after her. But you know, that's the price that they paid. They went over, and they worked, and even when she goes back now, she loves the city, but she's able to enjoy it now, because when she was there for those 12 years pretty solidly, they worked, and that was kind of it.
Listen, congratulations on Brooklyn. I really thought it was terrific. And as I said, as a middle-aged man...
With a moustache.
Oh, you didn't have to bring up the
With a
moustache.
moustache.
The moustache will be gone
See,
soon.
even
It's
men
not-
with moustaches will enjoy this film. Even you'll cry.
That should be on the poster.
If you've got a moustache, come see Brooklyn.
Thank you very much, Saoirse. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.